Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. This is Wednesday, May 8th, Major League Baseball. You can see the recap for Monday there. Nice little Monday. Overall, up almost 2 units. Got the free show A-grade play of the day. Rather than giving out a bunch of picks, kind of saying, here's the one best pick that we're going to give out on show. So the first one we did of those was Monday, got the win there. The extra credit pick over on Twitter, Push, still looking pretty good over there on the season. The overall play of the day over on Dub Club. Overall, again, kind of just hanging around there at 500 so far. It'll be fine in the long term, although it was a very disappointing April for us. But that one yesterday as well. No parlay of the day on Monday, but we do have one for Tuesday. We're recording this Tuesday afternoon as only one game is happening right now, so can't talk about the Tuesday results. I am pulling double duty here, wearing the Rockies hat with the Mets jersey, because we got two teams there that we're pulling for on Tuesday night. Let's see how that works out for us. We aren't on the Rockies very often, but every once in a while, if I can bust this hat out, it's a nice, like the little purple there, a little bit different, but overall pretty good little Monday there. Hopefully we can keep that rolling. If you're interested in getting more plays, all the A-grade plays, you can get those on Dub Club and the Discord chat, where we have a lot of fun, a lot of summaries, a lot of information, a lot of good things over there. And of course, the information from when you can't watch the show and don't have an hour to devote to it. All the information that I provide is summarized in a notes document that I give out twice a day. So a lot of benefits over there on Dub Club. The link in the show description. We start off with a free trial and some reminders before we get started here. Of course, information about the model, the community rules, pickswiththeprofessor.com/new. The weather is subject to change. Over 24 hours away from first pitch in these games, so we'll talk about where that matters. The one here on Tuesday, the weather still probably pitcher friendly for Coors on Tuesday, but maybe less so than we thought 24 hours ahead of time. And so those types of things, I'll try to mention where the weather is going to be matter, where we're going to want to keep an eye on it. So hopefully a lot of good information here for you on this show. We are projecting an average game. One game, anything can happen. The Rangers can put up, 11 runs before the A's come to bat the second time. Not to say the Rangers aren't the better team there, but that's a surprising result. We're going to see surprising results. The A's scoring 20 a couple nights ago, then giving up double digits here in 2 innings. That's not the sort of thing that you expect to happen. Those are all results. Those are fine. We view everything in terms of probability. That's just one win and one loss. And we look at the overall totality of how many games are we winning at those prices, and everything just relative to the price. It's how the books view it. It's how we should view it as well. That makes anything a good bet at the right price or number. That doesn't mean that right price or number will ever appear. But if it appears, we want to be willing to fire away, but as always, take what you like and leave the rest. Last but not least, if you can like the show, we would appreciate that. It would help us out. So we like it when you like it. A lot of day games for Wednesday here. Angels and the Pirates are going to kick us off here at 12:35 p.m. Eastern. A warm day in Pittsburgh, mid to upper 70s. The wind's going to matter on this one. It's going to be 10 to 15 miles an hour, a little bit out, a little bit across. More out's going to make this play very hitter-friendly. A little bit more across. It'll still play hitter-friendly. The question is just how hitter-friendly. Are we looking at what a total should be more in the low 9s to the upper 9s towards 10 potentially? And we'll talk about the total here in just a minute. Jose Soriano and Martin Perez. Soriano not as good as his ERA. Perez, same story. Both these pitchers aren't bad. They just aren't as good as those ERAs. Soriano and Perez both project more in the mid to low 4s than this ERA that they've sustained so far. That said, they should have success in this game because the opposing offenses that they're facing aren't exactly the scariest in the world. That said, the weather is going to be hitter-friendly. So kind of a little bit of a battle there between these pitchers aren't bad and should have an upper hand, but the weather could offset that. When you get down to the bullpens, this Pirates bullpen is very okay. Obviously, Bednar's been a little bit of a struggle. Chapman can always be a roller coaster, but they're not as bad as some of the weaker bullpens in the league. The Angels bullpen, I have absolutely no faith in whatsoever. 29th best, according to Sideline. So not really a good thing there in their bullpen. A couple of things to talk about here. First off is we're a little bit higher on the Pirates than the market, but probably not by enough to really to find much of an edge. The smallest edge really there, as you can see on screen, we're still about a dime away from that B grade threshold. As usual with the Angels, I'm just not that high on them. It's kind of a Pirates or pass type thing. The only reason the edge isn't bigger on the Pirates really is the fact that the Angels are a little bit right-handed heavy, even with Trout going down. Being right-handed heavy, they project to do a little bit better against a lefty. But the total is the really interesting thing right now. The total market is at 8, and you can actually get better odds on the over than the under. The weather in this situation makes that total look really, really low. That said, I don't love taking the over with these two offenses because they both can disappear. They both can look really incompetent. So the model is saying, look, these are still major league hitters. Major league hitters will still have success from time to time. We have enough data in the world of even bad major league hitters to know they will have some success on occasion, right? Again, the A's put up 20 runs the other day. The Marlins put up double-digit runs the other day, right? The relievers for Anaheim not being very good, the starters just being okay, and this weather. The model says massive over edge right here. It's over or pass. I couldn't go under in these conditions because this is a game that could hit the over by the 5th inning just because you could easily see multiple 2-3-run home runs early on just because, again, the weather. So over or pass on this one. How much do you trust those offenses? I think is a really interesting question. Blue Jays and the Phillies. First of a handful of 1 p.m. starts. Looks like we've got 3 of them here on Wednesday. Low 80s for this one. So we're starting to warm up here at different parts of the country. Another one where the wind's going to matter. Going to be blowing out to right field or a little bit across to right field. And whether it's out or across is going to matter. It's going to be 10 to 15 miles an hour. It's going to play another very hitter-friendly atmosphere. The question is just how hitter-friendly. And so a lot of what I just said about Pittsburgh going to hold true in Philadelphia as well. That tends to be the case when those two teams play at similar times. With regards to the players themselves, Chris Bassett, 5.45 ERA. He's better than that, but he's not great, just very average. Aaron Nola, of course, is very good. Same thing I've said about him the whole time, right? He definitely can strike guys out. He's definitely been a little susceptible to the home run ball here, even this season and last season. And that's kind of the real big ding on him. He's still a very good pitcher. The question is just how good, how elite he is. He's behind Wheeler, of course, in the pecking order of that team, but that's not really saying anything. As right now, I think literally every pitcher in baseball is that's healthy. So how much of a drop-off is Nola from Wheeler? It kind of depends on how much you believe in that home run rate, I think. He does better at home. I never love to fade Nola in Philadelphia for sure. Every pitcher is better at home, but again, Nola's got some of the more extreme home road splits over a large enough sample size to say that there's something there. The issue is the home run rate being a concern for him. This is going to be a good day for home runs. Now, again, the ball hasn't flown maybe quite as much as it has in years past, and unders have done better as of late on average, but the overs still hit on occasion, and this is going to be another day where the weather just lines up for a lot of runs. Both these offenses are pretty good. This Blue Jays offense, again, kind of looks worse and worse by the day, but in general, they still have good hitters there. And again, if the wind's blowing a little bit more out than across, this is going to play like a really hitter-friendly day. If it's more across than out, it'll only be kind of hitter-friendly. So that really is the determining factor for me, whether I'm looking at this over, is exactly what that wind does. But if we're talking about mid to low 80s for this game, and that wind is blowing out to right field, with all of the left-handed hitters that the Phillies can throw out there, they're going to hit a lot of home runs. The Blue Jays hitters have enough pop. They strike out a lot, of course, and that's where Nola's going to get a bunch of his outs. But they've got enough pop. There's going to be a bunch of home runs in this one, potentially. So another game that's over or past, just like with Pittsburgh, that we're going to want to check back in on the weather, the wind direction specifically, as it should be warm and the wind should be strong enough to matter if it's blowing out. With regards to the side, we're a little bit higher on the Phillies in the market in this case. I tend to agree with that. Not that I am in love with Nola at this point. I definitely have some concerns, but I think at this point we know with Bassett, he's very okay. He's not going to be great. And this Phillies offense continues to look better and better by the day. So we've got the Phillies at current price minus 146, worth a look. But we're not quite to that threshold to really love the play. So they're favored. They should be favored. They should be favored by a little bit more, but it's not by so much that it's a run to back the Phillies. Really, it's over or pass in this one for me. Tigers and the Guardians, 1 o'clock Eastern start, mid-70s. Another one where the wind's going to matter, folks. 10 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour, up to 20 miles an hour potentially, but not out. This time it's either going to be in or across, and we've got another pitcher-friendly ballpark that might play even more pitcher-friendly. So we might have some extreme things happening with regards to these totals, because some parks that are already slightly hitter-friendly getting more hitter-friendly, parks that are pitcher-friendly getting more pitcher-friendly. If the wind is across, I think this total of 8 set pretty good. If the wind's in, I think the total should be 7.5. So about a half run difference there between a cross or in, because we're talking about a fairly strong wind happening here in the day in Cleveland. With regards to the side here, Reese Olson and Tanner Bybee. Olson, a guy I've praised from coming up. I've liked him. 2.7 ERA. XFIP lines up exactly with that. Or excuse me, FIP lines up with that. XFIP's a little higher. Bybee looked really good here recently for us. 4.46 ERA. FIP is lower than that. XFIP's even lower. They project at about the same. Olson's been a little bit better this year. Bybee was a little bit better last year. These are both good pitchers. There's no reason not to back either one of them. You have to like them each. As I've been saying all series, the Guardians' offense is better than the Tigers by a little bit. Their bullpen's better. Not that the Tigers' offense has been terrible, and the Guardians' offense so far has been really good this year. I'm just not sure they can sustain that. Guardians are favored. They should be favored. We've liked them all series, and there's no difference here on the finale Wednesday afternoon. As the market has them at 56%, we've got them at 60%. And so we are right at that B grade threshold for the Guardians. So Guardians are pass is the way we're looking at this one. Right now, the total market, I think, is okay. I don't think it's that far off. I think that's really rounding error here between 7.9 and 7.7. Again, the main difference is that wind. If the wind is shifted toward more in, you got to think under or pass. If it's a cross, I think 8 makes sense, and you can kind of go over under based off how you feel about the other parts of this game. Mets Cardinals 1:15 p.m. Eastern, first pitch, upper 60s for this one. A wind out. We know it'll be out. If it shifts a little bit, it'll just kind of change which field it's blowing to. But about 10 miles an hour, the wind blowing out is going to kind of help the fact that a mid-upper 60-degree day is still on the cooler than average side for a game in St. Louis. And so that's going to kind of balance out. This will play like a pretty neutral park. Jose Quintana versus Sonny Gray. Last time I came on here and talked about Jose Quintana, as I said, what I'm always saying, ERA is not a good representation of what a pitcher is doing. It's not the best metric we have out there. It's not very predictive. And sure enough, I said Quintana is not as good as that ERA, and he got lit up. This Cardinals offense, I'm not sure if they can light anybody up. We'll find out, of course, more here tonight on Tuesday. But they've obviously really struggled so far this season. Quintana's not bad, or he's not terrible. He's just not very good. He's definitely a below average pitcher, as you can see there by that grade. Sonny Gray, on the other hand, is phenomenal and continues to look really, really good. A sub-1 ERA, that's obviously not sustainable. But his FIP's at 156 through 30 innings. That's pretty tough to do. Like, you start getting to the point now where most guys' FIPs are up towards the 2s by now. His xFIP's 223. I mean, it's not a mirage, folks. Sonny Gray has been really, really good. Now, the model's hedging a little bit and saying he probably won't be that good going forward, but so far it's been phenomenal. So this is a massive edge for the Cardinals with regards to the starting pitcher. If they're at home, they have a bullpen edge. Not that the Mets bullpen's bad. It's just the model really does love this Cardinals bullpen. We've got the Cardinals winning this 63% of the time, and that the price should be minus 172. You can fire away on the Cardinals if you want it minus 165. We're about a dime away from the B grade threshold, from where we would say the price is really valuable. But at this point, it's Cardinals or pass. I could not bet Quintana against Gray. And shockingly, the pricing in on the Cardinals isn't too bad. So it's a little bit of a steep price. Maybe it's a money line parlay pick. Maybe it's on the -1 pick. I'd rather play the -1 than the -1.5 with the home team. But definitely Cardinals or pass, at least at these prices. And this is when we're having the information ahead of time helps. We've already sent out the picks, the projections, everything to everybody on Dub Club. So if you're with us on Dub Club, I'm recording this here before dinner time on Tuesday. You're already seeing this, and you're already able to say, you know what, this price on the Cardinals, let's go ahead and lock it in now. If you're not with us on Dub Club and you're seeing this a whole lot later, there's a chance that the Cardinals, aren't at minus 165 by the time you're looking at this, that they're out to minus 180, minus 190 or something, that you would say, probably is a much more reasonable price, one that you can't really, you don't want to lay that big of a price with this Cardinals offense, but, still not good value on their side either. And so it kind of takes away a lot of the value. So I think playing the Cardinals at minus 165 can make some sense, as long as, again, the price is in that minus 160s range up towards minus 170, because the starting pitcher mismatch is just so large. I know the Mets offense a little more trustworthy than the Cardinals offense, but that gap there is a whole lot smaller than it is between these starting pitchers. Total-wise, we'd be looking at the over here. I never loved going over 7.5, though, so not really anything exciting for me total-wise in this one. Brewers and the Royals, we've got two games here, and the 2 o'clock slot, 2:10 p.m. first pitch, upper 70s for the totality of this game, folks. Another one we're going to want to check back on the weather in the morning, whether it's your favorite weather spot or here with me on Dub Club. I'll hit you up with the weather information in the morning. Wind will be blowing maybe out, maybe across at 10 to 20 miles an hour. If it's out towards right field, that's going to create a huge bump to the bats. If it's across, it probably will play. It'll still play very, very hitter friendly because it's Kauffman and it's an upper 70-degree day. But if it's blowing out, it's going to be about as hitter friendly as we're going to see at Kauffman Stadium until we get to those 100-degree days where we start seeing totals like 12.5 or something ridiculous because it's going to play like a bandbox. So until that day comes, this is about as good as it gets potentially if the wind's blowing out. Right now the model's kind of hedging and saying the total should be somewhere in the upper 9s. If the wind's blowing out, I think that total maybe should be up towards 10. If not, 9.5 be where I'd put it. So I'm kind of liking the over either way on this one. You have to like the Royals as well, simply because of the starting pitcher mismatch between Joe Ross and Brady Singer. And it's not just the ERAs, it's a lot of the underlying predictive metrics. Brady Singer, not as good as that 2.45 ERA, but definitely much closer to his previous self. XFIP of 321 is fantastic. He doesn't even project anywhere near that. His rating, his projection keeps getting better and better. He's been really good. The underlying metrics, again, don't support quite a 2.45 ERA. He won't be that good, but very pleased with his performance, and you love backing him. Joe Ross, on the other hand, well, maybe not as bad as that 4.65 ERA. His xFIP's 4.41, so it's not like it's, a far cry from it. His FIP's a tiny bit lower. He might be a little bit better than that 4.65 ERA, but folks, make no bones about it. Brady Singer is the much better pitcher in this one. I like the Royals bullpen better than the Brewers bullpen. I can't believe I'm saying that. Of course, the Brewers, Uribe was supposed to be a much better pitcher for them. He's been sent to the minors because he's been so terrible. When he comes back, I'll have to serve that suspension. Obviously, losing Devin Williams hurts. This Brewers bullpen has kind of fallen apart a little bit here on recent times, and given us a situation where the Royals just should have a pitching edge from the beginning to the end. The weather in the park sets us up for an over, and the pitching edge sets us up to like the Royals. Which one do you like more? It's kind of some personal preference, but it's Royals and over for me on this one. Padres and Cubs, 2:20 p.m. Eastern, first pitch in their game, as always in Wrigley, where we don't have a total market established just yet. They want to see the weather as it gets closer. I believe, if I remember correctly, Tuesday's game, the weather the wind shifted around, and that changed the projected total a decent bit too. They don't want to get caught with their pants down on that one. So that makes a lot of sense given how impactful the wind can be. Right now, it's another one where the wind's going to really matter the direction of it. It might look like it's a little bit in, a little bit across, maybe more in than across. And by the end of this game, we're going to see it winds up to 20 miles an hour. Low 60s, we have pretty good confidence about that. The temperature isn't going to deviate too much from that, but the wind direction really could. And again, 10 to 20 mile an hour winds is going to really matter in that part, folks. If this wind stays in at this strength, it's going to be a game where I'm not saying, you should take the over, because they overreacted to this total on Monday. And I was telling people maybe you should take the over here, even though the weather is pitcher friendly. So that doesn't necessarily mean take the under. It just means, we're going to be seeing a much lower projection if this wind stays in. The reason I like the over on Monday, the reason I'm liking the over here on Tuesday, we'll see if that hits. These bullpens aren't very good at all. You saw it on Monday where the starters pitch shutout baseball, and then there were 9 runs given up by the relievers. And that's going to be the problem, I think, with both of these teams, is their relievers just aren't that good. These two starters kind of align like the ones on Monday, above average, solid pitching. We had a little bit of a concern with Steele's first start back. You have a little bit of concern here with Wesneski. Is he actually going to be able to be as good as he's been so far? So far, it's been fantastic. Good FIP as well. Underlying metrics are solid. It's just, it's a small sample size, so can he keep that up is a question. Dylan Cease has been phenomenal for San Diego. Is a very good pitcher. You know all about him. So 2 good starting pitchers. Don't know if Wesneski can keep it up, but what we think will be good pitching weather. This is a game that should have not very many runs early on, and then the bullpens get involved, and that's where things might get a little bit hairy. You can see the projection there on screen for the total with regards to the side. We'd be leaning Cubs. The model says they should be priced at only plus 105. You can get plus 108, so slight bit of value backing the Cubs and Wesneski. Not enough for me to run to and jump on right away. The Padres offense is good. Their bullpen might be better. I don't know. And Dylan Cease is a good enough pitcher that I'm not fading him without the really good price. But based off what we've seen in this series, there's a really good chance there's a first five or a total edge here because the market really doesn't seem to know what to do with these two teams, this series, this weather, and given just how different the bullpens are with regards to their weakness versus the starting pitcher strength. So there might be a good play on this one. I just don't think we're seeing it yet. So tune into the morning on Dub Club, and we might have us a good play for this one. Marlins and the Dodgers wrapping up their 3-game series, low 70s. And this one will be blowing out at about 10 miles an hour. That'll make the park play slightly hitter-friendly. Ryan Weathers and Gavin Stone. Weathers has been just very subpar so far this year. Maybe not as bad as some of his days in San Diego. 4.54 ERA, xFIP and FIP both higher than that. He grades out as below average. Gavin Stone, 4.06 ERA. FIP better, xFIP worse. He's just very respectable. The Dodgers will have an edge there at starting pitcher. The model still likes this Marlins bullpen better than the Dodgers bullpen. Again, part of that with the Dodgers bullpen is Evan Phillips dropping out really hurts them. And we don't want to overreact. I mentioned this before. This Marlins bullpen hasn't done well so far. They did pretty well on Monday against this Dodgers offense, and I think that's showing just what they can do. The underlying metrics are fine for them, so we kind of just think it's been some bad luck for the bullpen. What's not bad luck is the Marlins offense, which just isn't very good, and that's the biggest difference in this game. Dodgers offense, amazing. Marlins offense, terrible, and that's why the Dodgers are big favorites. But I'm going to say the same thing I've been saying all series about this one, which is the Dodgers are big favorites. They should be big favorites, but maybe they shouldn't be quite this big of favorites. The model says they win 2 out of 3 times, but that minus 265 is just a bridge too far. The Marlins price not good enough to get into the B grade value. Maybe there's a Marlins first 5 play, maybe a run line play. Maybe it's just a game where the market or the model is telling us the market's too high on the Dodgers. We don't have to play the Marlins, but we don't have to play the Dodgers either. As I said yesterday, as I said the day before, I'll say it again. The Dodgers money line price, just a little bit too high. It's not a good pick by itself. It's not a good pick in a parlay. And just going to the run line doesn't then all of a sudden make it a good pick. Doesn't mean it won't hit. It hit on Monday. But if you're with us on Monday and you get that first, that early up promo on DraftKings, you cash that in the first inning at plus 280, which kind of just went to show what we were talking about with. Didn't know what we'd get from Buehler. Didn't really know the pitching on both sides. There were just a lot of uncertainties in that. Bunch of runs early, then things chilled out. The Dodgers won, they covered the run line. But I think you had to be a little bit nervous in that first inning because of what we said, which was, is Buehler really ready to come back right now? We just don't know. And there's too much uncertainty for that big of a price. And I'll say the same thing here. That doesn't mean the Dodgers don't sweep all 3 games. It just means the price is a little bit too high. We've seen the Dodgers sometimes struggle against teams they should beat. They should absolutely win this game, but that doesn't mean that playing at minus 265 is good because the market's got them winning this a few more times every 100 games than we think they would. So it's Marlins or pass, as it's been all series for me, probably passing because I don't think I can stomach playing the Marlins, but that doesn't mean that backing the Dodgers here in these types of prices is going to lead to long-term profitability. Slightly into the over could make a lot of sense given this weather. This park can play fairly hitter-friendly in the right conditions. These might be those conditions, especially if you don't really believe in the Dodgers bullpen. Gavin Stone giving them a ton of length. Ryan Weathers. A lot of reasons think there could be some runs in this one, so over 9 might make some sense in that one too. Rangers and the A's, double hitter for this one. Game 1. I mean, honestly, don't know who's going to pitch either game. Game 1, according to Fangraphs, is Michael Lorenzen and JP Sears. A game where the Rangers will have a little bit of a pitching edge. Both of these guys have outperformed their peripherals. So really, it's more about looking back historically what these guys did last year, for example. Lorenzen has a little bit more data than Sears does going back. I think Lorenzen's a slightly better pitcher. Neither one of these guys is great. This Rangers offense is better. We see it here on Tuesday with the Rangers jumping out to this giant lead against a pitcher in Sears who's probably not drastically different than Stripling other than the arm side, not bad, has had a pretty good start to the season. This Rangers offense can get going. They also can disappear a little bit at times, but in general, I mean, the Rangers are better. They'd have a slight edge at pitcher. They should be favored. If this is the pitching matchup, we've got them priced at minus 140. The caveat with the A's for game 1 and game 2, Mason Miller is one of the best relievers in baseball. They tried him as a starter. He was just kind of meh, but he throws insanely hard, has really good stuff. He hasn't pitched in a week. I don't see him pitching Tuesday in an 11-2 game, especially with a doubleheader coming up. I have to imagine they're kicking themselves for not putting him in the 8th inning and going for a 2-inning save on Monday, considering he hadn't pitched in like 6 days at that point. He might throw 2 innings here on one of these games. Whichever one he pitches in, the A's stand a chance to either get a comeback win a tight game, or hang on in a different way than they would the other game where he doesn't pitch. Because their bullpen has been really good so far. I'm not sure it's real. I'm not sure they can kind of keep up. You saw the bullpen struggle on Monday, and I think you're going to see a little bit more bullpen struggles from the A's going forward. As good as it's been, but I don't from Miller. I think he's really good. So not knowing when he's going to pitch really matters. Might be a game where you think about attacking game 2 based off if he's pitched or not pitched. If he pitches in game 1, especially for those 2 innings, you have to like the Rangers more in game 2. If he doesn't, you have to like the A's. At some point, you think tomorrow's going to be a time where they're going to use him one way or the other. So it's something to consider. One of the few bullpen guys who's really going to matter just because of everybody else. But again, I don't know who's pitching in that game. I don't know who's pitching in game 2. Again, going with Fangraphs, they've got the A's calling up Osvaldo Bido, a guy who pitched for the Pirates for a few years against Jack Leiter. Talked about Leiter on yesterday's show. I don't know. I mean, I've got projections here. So if this happens to be the pitching matchup, you can look at the projections. You can look at this stuff and see what you think. I have a feeling this won't be the matchups that we see just because neither game has starting pitchers confirmed. And so because my hunches, we're going to see something different. My hunches will have different, different line coming out or projection coming out in the morning. But if not, if we accidentally do happen to see this, then here are your projections. Here's your thresholds for B grade, the total projections, everything you can see on screen. As always, though, all this information, all the updates and more over on Dub Club. Diamondbacks and the Reds to the night games. Of course, game 2 in Oakland will be at night, and this one will be a late afternoon game for them, a night game for those of us in the Eastern time zone, 6:40 p.m. Eastern here in Cincinnati for that first pitch. Mid to upper 70s to start, mid to upper 60s to start, mid 60s to close. Slight breeze in on this game. Chance of rain pushing it back a little bit. The weather is going to make for an interesting total projection on this one, where I'm going to hold my breath and say I'm not sure if the total calculation, for the total, for the projected total that the model does, is very sophisticated. It's not so sophisticated I can't explain it. I don't necessarily want to, because I would, I would if we were like in a one-on-one tutoring session, I guess. But I don't, I can explain to you everything that's going on with the total calculation. It is a little bit complicated, a little bit, fancy, I guess, but it's not so fancy that it can handle what's going to happen with the weather on this game. And what I mean by that is, when the front moves through and the rain clears out, the wind dies down. And so if the game gets delayed, the temperature drops, making the ball fly less. The wind will die down. It's blowing in. And so that'll hurt that less. If the front moves through earlier, it'll be warmer. The wind might still be as strong because it depends on when it stops and the sunset and how that affects things and the moon. And I don't know science, right? So there's just a lot happening with what sort of rain situation we have with this. At this point, it's not too far out to really know for the rain. We'll know more in the morning. We'll know more in the afternoon. It's just one of those flag this one as weather could throw things off early on, push it to a little bit of a later start. That could affect things, including the projected total. What shouldn't change, hopefully, would be the starting pitchers, Jordan Montgomery and Graham Ashcraft. Montgomery has struggled so far to the start of his Diamondbacks career, 5.63 ERA, FIPS pretty much with it. Now, one of those starts, of course, against the Dodgers makes things look a little bit worse, but his rating's going the wrong direction. Ashcraft's rating's going the right direction. And his 6 starts, 3.63 ERA. FIPS a little bit higher, but xFIPS right in line with that. Coming into the season, I would have said Montgomery's the better pitcher. At this point, it seems like maybe a toss-up. we don't want to ignore what we saw from Jordan Montgomery last year and the year before, where he's become one of the stronger, more underrated pitchers in baseball. But we can't ignore these 3 starts either. Ashcraft's been a guy with some potential, but ups and downs, but so far so good. Whatever gap exists between these starting pitchers today, it's a whole lot smaller than it was to start the season. What's not as big of, or what's still a big gap, of course, is the offenses. The Diamondbacks offense is very solid. The Reds offense isn't. And so that's why I've got the Diamondbacks favored in this one. A little bit higher than the market. We've got it at minus 119. The market's at minus 112. Minus 106 gets you to that B grade. So not quite good enough to get there, but it's Diamondbacks or pass. In a game that the market has the total a little above 9, we've got the total a little bit above 9. So one where I think we're in pretty good lockstep with the market total-wise. Orioles and the Nats, mid-80s for first pitch on this one in Washington. Upper 70s to close. Slight breeze across to start, shifting in, but not strong enough to affect things too much. This is a hitter-friendly ballpark, and it'll be warm enough that should hold true in this one. Kyle Bradish and Mitchell Parker. Bradish will look good in his first start of the season. Didn't quite make it 5 innings, but he should be stretched out a little bit more this time. Very good pitcher. Mitchell Parker is a guy I've been preaching and talking about how much I love him in all 4 of his starts. And in those 4 starts, he's faced the Astros, the Dodgers, and the Rangers. That's a pretty tough first 3 of his first 4, and he gets to add to that by playing the Orioles, who is another top 5 offense. The benefit for him, Orioles are very left-handed heavy, and so that's going to be benefit Mitchell Parker in this one because he's facing guys that should struggle a little bit more than if he were to be right-handed. But Mitchell Parker, I've been singing his praises all season. 2.53 ERA, xFIP higher than that, FIP lower than that. His projection continues to come down. I think this guy's really good. Bullpen-wise, both of them are just kind of okay. Offensively, that's where the Orioles have the big edge. But given the game's in Washington and given how much we like Mitchell Parker and given the lefty-lefty thing, I've got this as a lot closer to a coin toss than the market does. The Orioles are favored. They should be favored, but I'm not sure they should be favored by that much. Bradish has been much more average over the course of his career than he started off looking, of course, in his 1 start this year. I think he's better than average. But I'm not sure he's the better starting pitcher here. This is priced as if he's the better starting pitcher. I'm just not sure that's the case. I love me some Mitchell Parker. And this is your A-grade free show play of the day right here is Nats locking in plus 151 as the B-grade threshold is only plus 123. So that gets my A-grade stamp of approval, jumping it from a B-grade to an A-grade. Again, this is a kind of a coin-tossy type game. You can take this on the run line if you want, but I think money line just makes a lot of sense for the home team here. I think either team can win, so plus 150 is a pick I want to be on every day of the week. White Sox and the Rays, no line for this one. We're looking at Chris Flexen and Aaron Savali. If it is these 2 pitchers going, Flexen, according to Sideline, the worst starting pitcher in baseball. Savali, not great, but better than Flexen. The Rays offense has been very up and down, and against righties only grades out as average. They're super right-handed heavy right now. Not great, but better than the White Sox. And the Rays bullpen, also not great, but better than the White Sox. The Rays would be big favorites in this one. I'll say the same thing about this one as I said all series with the Rays. They're favored. They should be favored. How much of a price do we really want to lay on a team who offensively looks a little bit confused, is facing righties when they're right-handed heavy? That doesn't help things. Whose bullpen, like, it's not like the White Sox have a good bullpen, but like doesn't have a great bullpen themselves. It's Rays full game. White Sox first 5 is kind of the way to look at it. That's how we look at the White Sox in general, but Rays full game prices are just so high. It's hard to love them. We'll see what the number is on this one. Maybe there's an official pick coming on Dub Club. For now, no market set. Actually, the Yankees mid-upper 60s. Wind will be blowing out at 5 to 10 miles an hour, which is going to make a slightly pitcher-friendly ballpark overall. Play pretty close to average. Spencer Arrighetti and Carlos Rodon. Arrighetti much better than his 8.27 ERA. I still don't think he's good, but his FIP's at 339, his xFIP's in the low 4s. His underlying metrics are just fine. I still think he's not a major league caliber starting pitcher, or at least a major league caliber starting pitcher for a team who's been to the American League Championship Series approximately 129 years in a row. He's only there because of all the injuries. I think he's a back-end type guy. That's what he's done so far. Again, he's better than that ERA. That doesn't mean he's good. He still stands to get hit around by Yankees offense that still projects to be pretty good. You know who else projects to get hit around? Carlos Rodon. Not as good as he was in his heyday. Better than he was last year, I guess, but he still hasn't found the magic that he had for those couple years where he was vying for Cy Young's, back-to-back seasons there. His ERA is 3.68, but his FIP's near 5, his xFIP's in the mid-4s. At this point, Rodon is somewhere between good and average. If you really blink hard enough, you might convince yourself he's good, but there's a realistic chance that Carlos Rodon is nothing but an average pitcher right now. And that's not a bad thing. I'd love to be an average major league pitcher. The concern for an average major league pitcher is as a lefty going against an Astros offense that projects to hit lefties pretty well, that always handles lefties pretty well, is you expect to give up a lot of runs. I think there could be some runs in this game. The model has it in the low to mid 9s. The current total is 8.5. Over could make a lot of sense. With regards to the side, we're pretty well in lockstep with the market on this one. We've got the Yankees winning 58% of the time. The market has them at 57% of the time. Red Sox and the Braves, about 80 degrees for this one, maybe upper 70s to close. Another one where the wind's going to matter. 5 to 15 miles an hour, a little bit in, a little bit across. If it's across, it's going to play like a fairly hitter-friendly ballpark. If it's in, it's going to play a little bit more neutral and maybe even slightly pitcher-friendly. And that shift's going to really matter with regards to where we project this total at. These two starting pitchers should have success, but you never feel comfortable with the Braves offense not scoring runs. But so far, so good for Nick Pivetta in his 2 starts. 0.82 ERA, FIP and xFIP both in the 2s. Chris Sale looks as strong as he's looked in his career. Just looks fantastic. Mid-3s ERA, lower than that for the FIP and the xFIP. The Braves just have so many dang good starting pitchers. Their bullpen's good. The Red Sox bullpen's good. I'll say the same thing here about Wednesday's game as I said about Tuesday's. If the weather holds up and looks pretty reasonable, and under 9 can make a lot of sense. The issue is going to be the weather. If that park starts to play a little bit smaller, the Braves offense can put up runs in a hurry, but the starting pitching sets up for unders, the bullpen set up for unders. It's not the most comfortable under type play in the world, of course, but I think the under can make some sense Tuesday. I think it can make some sense Wednesday, assuming you can get the similar under 9. Right now, there's no market out. But it does look like these are the 2 pitchers that are going, so just waiting on a projected total and a projected market on the side there to see. We have the Braves as big favorites, of course. See, maybe there's a Braves edge. Maybe there's a total edge. We'll find out more in the morning. Mariners and the Twins, 7:40 p.m. Eastern. First pitch, mid-60s to start, mid-50s to close. More strong wind, 15 miles an hour, looking like it's going to be blowing in. It might shift a little bit as the game progresses, but as the temperature drops, it's going to play pretty pitcher-friendly from first pitch to last. The only question is how pitcher-friendly. George Kirby on the Mariners doesn't really need any help. One of the stronger pitchers in baseball, 3.76 ERA. His FIP is right above 2. xFIP in the low 3s. Very, very good pitcher in Kirby. Paddock, not great, might need some of that weather help. But again, the benefit for him, and I'll say it about all the Twin starters, you saw it on Monday when I highlighted Simeon Woods Richardson and why the Twins might have some value there Monday against the Mariners, is while the Mariners are the better starting pitcher with Luis Castillo, you have a pitcher on the Twins who isn't that bad, and having that bullpen behind him, one of the stronger bullpens in baseball, helps you out. You don't have that pressure to go as deep. You can throw everything you got. You can come out and turn it over to some of the better arms in the game. And that's where the Twins are at right now. Paddock isn't great. His underlying metrics are better than that ERA. Kirby's the better pitcher for sure, but the bullpen edge goes to the Twins. Twins are at home. This is a pretty coin-tossy type game. The market is the Mariners' favorite. I'm not sure I buy that. At plus odds, I'd take either team at plus odds. We're getting the Twins at plus odds. That makes sense to me. I think the total is a little bit too high. Obviously, you want to see more about the weather, but it's definitely Twins or pass and under or pass for me in that one. And then wrapping us up, the nightcap, not that late, 8:40 p.m. Eastern, Giants and the Rockies. Kind of a carbon copy weather-wise of Tuesday's game. Check the weather in the morning. The wind's a little bit in, a little bit across. It's not quite as strong as Tuesday. We're talking more 5 to 15 miles an hour versus up to 20 miles an hour that we saw on Tuesday. But if this wind's in, this park's going to play not that hitter friendly, still hitter friendly, but not maybe by that much. If it's across, it'll still play fairly hitter friendly. And that could be the difference between an implied total more in the upper 8s or the lower to mid 9s. And you say, that's crazy. It's Coors Field. The total in this game is 10.5. I know the total is 10.5, but I don't understand how you can get there mathematically. Like the math just isn't there for me to get to a number like that, because we know park factors. We've known about park factors. We know how they impact things. Like the math is very straightforward. The only way to get to a total of 10.5 in this game is the wind doesn't matter at all, which means it's blowing across, which that could happen. The temperature is warmer than it is, which it won't be. And these teams are better offensively than they are. Like to get to 10.5, you have to think the Giants offense is good and the Rockies offense is respectable. And neither one of those things is the case. The Giants offense is more respectable. The Rockies offense is terrible. Jordan Hicks is good. He could struggle in Coors. Anybody could. And he's not as good as that 189 ERA, but he's an above average pitcher. Peter Lambert is much better than his 5.66 ERA. Not that he's good, but he's decent enough that you don't expect him to give up, 10 runs to this mediocre Giants offense. These Rockies relievers, they aren't good. They aren't the problem. The problem is the Rockies' bats. You can't feel confident about any over involving the Rockies because when they win, they're winning because of starting pitching and not because of their bats. The Giants are kind of in the same boat. Their bats disappear more than anything. And that grade on the Giants offense that you can see there now down to the double digits continues to fall. It seems like a little bit each day, as it was just recently in the low hundreds. Now we're in the upper 90s. And if it continues to perform like this, it'll be down towards 90 pretty soon. I don't understand how you get to this total number. Definitely just want to see the weather in the morning because the wind could really change things to get from what this projection is. But 10.5 is just too much. That doesn't mean the under hits. And maybe you might want to play the first 5. Who knows? What we saw on Tuesday was I said the same thing. I was like, 10.5 is ridiculous. There's no reason it should be that high. And it got bet down enough that the value kind of dissipated by the morning. We'll see if that's the same thing here. But for this value to really dissipate, we could have a wind shift. If the wind shifts and this gets to 9.5, I'd say there's no value. But even under 10 would make a lot of sense. I think this total might be even more mispriced than Tuesday's was. Tuesday's rectified itself a decent bit. We'll see if this one does, but it's starting off way too high. I know it's Coors Field, but the altitude can only matter so much. We've seen this Rockies offense at home struggle. There's no reason to think they're going to magically figure it out against an above-average pitcher like Jordan Hicks. With regards to the side, I'm treating Wednesday very much like Tuesday. It's Rockies or pass. I don't love this Rockies team, but they do play better at home. They're much more comfortable to back at home than on the road, and the Rockies are being treated like they're so bad. We've actually found a little bit of value in backing them here and there here recently. This might be another chance for that. We're not quite to that B grade threshold, at least right now. And I don't love fading Jordan Hicks, but I can't back the Giants at a price like minus 165. When you add in the weird things sometimes happen at Coors, when you add in the fact that the Rockies have the best home field advantage in baseball historically every single season, even when they're bad, they're still better at home than they are on the road. That home field edge is so real because the altitude. It's Rockies or pass. Maybe it's pass. We're dabbling a little bit here on the Rockies on Tuesday night. We'll see how that goes. Maybe we dabble a little bit with them on Wednesday. But it's definitely under and Rockies if I'm touching that game at all. And there's your slate for Wednesday. A ton of day games, a ton of night games. Should be a great day of baseball. Remember, sign up on Dub Club today for more A-grade picks. Play of the day, second play of the day if you're looking for another great pick. Parlay of the day, we had one Tuesday. We're not going to be able to have one every day, but maybe we'll get one again for Wednesday as well. Summaries, information, Discord chat group, a ton of fun over there. Sign up today in that link in the show description. As always, thanks for watching. Best of luck, and remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.